Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Breakthrough Podcast. For this week, I got a special guest, Isiah Haji. Welcome, Isiah.
Yo, 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 what's up?
Doing good, doing good. Yeah, no, love to have you on today. Gonna ask you a few questions about your life and all the stuff you're doing in the electronic scene currently. But yeah, the first question I really wanted to ask you, who is Isiah Haji?
That's a tough question, low key, just because I feel like over the last few months I've really been asking myself that same question. And I don't know if I have the full answer, but I can definitely say so far, um, I'm an electronic artist from Arizona. I've really just been exploring the sounds that interest me the most, which is like very ethereal sounds. I want like the Isiah Haji project to be more like timeless and fun and just like really capturing like a single moment for people. And yeah, I think that's it really. I don't I don't know.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, no, for sure. And tell the viewers what sort of electronic style of music do you make?
I am probably more known at this point for like really rowdy bass music or mid tempo, um, maybe dubstep or future bass. But I've been leaning more towards into like hard wave, like trap almost, like hybrid trap even. I think those sounds like really resonate with me and kind of my direction and vision and what I like to not just listen to but like feel. So yeah, I'd say that's really it. That's like the sound I would go for is like that hard wave, synth wave, kind of orchestral almost, analog. Like I guess those are like words I would use to describe it.
Definitely, yeah, no. I've seen videos on your Instagram from different shows you've played around the U.S. and you definitely bring a very rowdy crowd to every venue that you've played. But the second question that I have that pertains to that is, what are some of your favorite shows that you've played, or some favorite venues that you've played while you've been on tour?
Um, I would have to say, in my hometown, my favorite so far was the Rialto, just because that is like I don't know if you grow up in Arizona and even just like way south, Rialto is like that venue that you aspire to play at and like you want to be involved with, and that one specifically, like being there in the past for shows that I've attended, looking at that stage and thinking like, dang, I want to be up there one day. And then finally getting to that point, it was one of those moments where I was like, dang, like we really are doing something here. So I'd have to say that that's like my favorite. A close second would have to be in Vegas at We All Scream. The hospitality there was insane. Like probably the best I've experienced. Those guys really took care of me and like my friends, and yeah, it was just like a really good experience. And the booth monitors were like really good, like crystal clear. I've
That's
never heard
crazy.
monitors like that. So I would have to say We All Scream in Vegas was like a super close second.
That's pretty cool to hear. Yeah, no, for sure. And what headliners did you play support for at both of those venues?
The one in Tucson at Rialto, that one was Subtronics, and I've also opened for Peekaboo there. The one in Vegas was Subdocta, which was like really interesting because I've only really played like that kind of like spacey, like lucid bass music to myself, really, like listen to it for fun. But getting out there and like doing it on the stage, that was interesting, and it was definitely a moment of like experimentation for me, and I did all right, I would say, and a lot of people seemed like they had fun. So
That's very, very cool to hear. And with playing those shows also, did you ever get a chance to meet those artists that you played for? Because I bet that's very inspiring to sit face to face with those headliners like a Subtronics, a Peekaboo, or a Subdocta, and hear kind of their side on things.
With Subtronics, we did do. I'm pretty sure we did like a little meet and greet afterwards. And he was mostly playing with the I forget. I think it's called a kendama thing. I don't remember
Oh
what it's
yeah.
called. He was mostly doing that thing. And he's low key super good at it. So we were like kind of talking in between him doing that. But it was really dope to meet him and hear a little bit about him. Peekaboo, we got like a more in-depth opportunity to meet him and like actually talk to him. And I got to introduce my girlfriend to him, which was fun.
That's
So it was
cool.
really, it was like that was like a more like intimate conversation that we got to have. And then with Sub Doctor, that was just like random. Like we got done off the stage, and afterwards, just kind of were walking around, and I wanted to go up to the green room because it was like up on like the third top floor, whatever the heck it was. And when we got up there, the talent buyer came over and was like, "Hey, Sub Doctor would like to like I'd like to introduce him to you. Like he said you did good, so I'd love to make that connection." And so we kind of I went to the bathroom, and when I came out, Sub Doctor was right there, so we did like a little hangout in front of the bathroom for a second. And yeah, we got to talk, and he really just like let me know that what I was doing with like opening sets, like even I've played direct support, I've played in the middle, and I've everyone's opened like very first slot. So to go back to playing like that opening slot, it was definitely like a cool experience because afterwards Sub Doctor was like, you really smashed that one. Like you really know how to open and warm up a crowd and not go absolutely berserk on the decks. So that was like really validating to hear, considering I like really pushed to make that set dope. So I think that one was very memorable for me. Getting to like talk to Subdoct and hear like these validating comments, and then obviously we all just like took a shot afterwards and had a good time.
Yeah, no, that definitely sounds like a great time when you're meeting all these people and hearing their side of things. And definitely, I also heard you. This is like a year ago. You went down to San Bernardino and you went to Nocturnal Wonderland. I heard.
I did. I went over to Nocturnal, and honestly, just a random adventure and kind of life-changing experience just because it like opened my eyes to a lot of things that like normally I wouldn't get to see or have access to. And getting to meet some of the artists that I've always looked up to, like Blank, and like a really random interaction with Rez, even though it was I don't even think I was supposed to be back there. I just had to use the bathroom, and when I went back there it was absolutely empty. And I I didn't put two and two together. I knew she was going on, but I thought she was already on the stage, like getting ready to do her thing. But no, I went to the bathroom and I noticed like three porta potties are like taken up, and I'm like, all right, whatever. So I go in and I hear people talking outside, and there's only like four of us back there. So I'm like, who the heck is also back here? I wonder. And I come out of the bathroom and it's freaking Rez, her tour manager, and girlfriend, and I'm just absolutely blown away. I don't even know what to do. I couldn't even talk. I was absolutely frozen, and so we're all just like washing our hands like in dead silence, and I just like kind of glance over, and Rez kind of glances over, and she does like a little head nod thing, and I did a head nod thing. And I just left it at that. I didn't say a single word. I was absolutely choked. And then I like calmly walked out. And as I'm walking out, I see like security and police at the entrance of the backstage, and I'm like, oh, so like I'm not supposed to be back here. And so I like walk out to the crowd because I'm trying to watch the show also. And yeah, I was just like standing there for a moment like, what is going on? And then at the same time Pasquale's like right there, so I'm like running into Rez, running into Pasquale. Dylan Francis is doing like a meet and greet nearby. It was like so much happening all at once for my mind to like even compute. The 14-year-old in me was like losing it. I could not handle it for like at least 10 minutes. I was dead silent. I was so lost.
That's pretty insane to hear because so many artists come to these Insomniac festivals, and of course, when you're backstage as an artist, you get to see all of these other artists and just see what they do for their living, and it's a very big festival, very elaborate festival to go to. I mean, since you're from Arizona, do you ever go to the Arizona festivals, or do you like more going to the Insomniac festivals?
I go to the AZ ones also. I've been to like Decadence. I haven't been to Gold Rush yet, but I have been to Dusk. I do want to go to Gold Rush. More so, I want to play there just because it looks like a fun place to play. So, if I got the chance to play there, I think that'd be like my time to go to Gold Rush. But I'd have to say Decadence is probably like one of my favorite ones in Arizona. Just because I mean, it's a great way to cap off the year and like make that memory and like share those moments with really like close people. Also, they just like really they really go ham on who they book. So I remember one year we saw Millennium and Alice in Wonderland like in the same weekend, and that to me was like super dope. I think we also saw like whipped cream at one of them. So I'm like,
Wow, yeah.
Decadence is like low key the spot, end of the year. Um, for Arizona though, we've got a lot of good festivals, and like lately I've noticed a lot of artist festivals happening. Like Excision's festival coming here, not Lost Lands, but like I don't even know what it's called. It's just like Excision.
Yeah. The one in Phoenix. Yep.
Yeah, it's like a 2 day thing. Yeah, there's a few really good festivals happening out here that a lot of people can enjoy, and I personally enjoy. I think Decadence is the top one though.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I remember going there a few years ago when I was in Arizona one time, and it was crazy down there, definitely. But leading into my other questions pertaining to artists, are there any specific electronic artists that you've looked up to and helped you grow as an electronic artist yourself?
There's a multitude of artists. Like I kind of draw inspiration from kind of everybody. But if I had to like pinpoint like very specific artists, I'd have to say Blank is one of them. Like when it comes to like production, sound design, and like perseverance, and like how he carries himself as an artist, and like how he like kind of paved the road for himself. I really was inspired by that more like psychologically, I guess I would say, and like technically, and like kind of drawing from that inspiration. But then there's artists like Madion who like aesthetically I'm absolutely obsessed with. Like the way that Madion puts on a show or like puts out artwork for his cover arts, and like the way he like curates content slash just like designs in general. That's like I really like the way Madion does all of that. But then there's people like Skrillex obviously who just like they're the absolute pinnacle of like who you would like want to be. Um, and then then there's artists like Frosttop who's like he's a smaller artist, and like I'm sure
Yeah.
people are still getting to know who Frosttop is, but that's an artist I look up to as well, where it's like even though I don't know if I can really say peers, but like even though we're like on the same level sort of, or like me just like kind of underneath him, I still look at the stuff he's doing and I'm like mind blown and like want to not really like I wouldn't even say like draw inspiration from, but like just embody like that same kind of vibe he has, where it's just
Hmm.
like I am just doing my thing, like this is my vision, and I want to share it with everybody. Yeah, that's I would say those are like the main ones that I can pick out like on the spot, but I would say mostly people would probably see like the same kind of concepts with like Madion. I feel like there's been times where like I've done something and then a couple days later I see Madion do the same thing, and I'm like, okay, like I'm definitely doing something right and I have the right ideas here, but Madion's beating me to the punch every time, which is not the worst thing, but like also one of these days I will be the first to do it, and I will have Madion copying me. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah, I know it's very crazy to see what Madion's been doing right now with his sort of visuals and his live show. And it's really cool to hear how you're gaining inspiration from him. But leading to my other question, kind of regarding this, with your own career, when did you first start making music, making electronic music?
I would say it was really early on. I think we're on like year 11 or 12 of me making music. I started probably around, I want to say like 14, like maybe even earlier than that. Um, Making music overall, I've done that since I was like literally a child, it seems like, and it feels like. I can remember like picking up like my very first guitar. It was probably like 2 feet or something like that. It was the smallest guitar ever. Had like the lowest action I've ever like on a guitar you could have. Like that thing was so small. And then kind of as time grew and like moved forward, I found myself more like attracted to electronic music. And I would say like late middle school going into high school, I started making electronic music. So I guess that's like ninth, not even eighth grade. I think that's the grade before high school.
Hmm.
That's when I started making electronic music, and it was really just like at first mashups. I remember I did this mashup of Cannibal by Kesha and Satisfaction, and I put it on. I think I put it on SoundCloud or YouTube, and sent it to like all of my friends. So if you can imagine a bunch of eighth graders like bumping this really weird mashup of Cannibal by Kesha and Satisfaction from Benny Benassi, and like everyone was like, "Dude, this is sick," and we're like on the back of the bus, like just vibing out. So I like that was kind of where it started, and then as time went on, I think I started making like house music, and then I feel like everybody starts at house music and then ends up where they're gonna end up. Obviously, some people stay at house music, but I think I originally wanted to make like dubstep, just like the most rowdy dubstep I could because I had heard Scary Monsters and I was like, what is that? Like I want to do that specific thing. And I found out that's really hard to do. So I quickly like diverted back into house and then slowly progressed into like this flume style, and then the flume style turned into mid tempo, and then the mid tempo kind of carried on the longest for me. But I think it was more so for like the cinematic, like negative spaces that I could use in mid tempo, and I drew a lot of inspiration during that time from like Hans Zimmer. And I think there was like I think it's like a Fresh Static Snow live edit that Porter Robinson did that I was like, dude, this is like the sound. So I like really leaned into that, and then obviously like Res and 1788L, like kind of rode those inspirations for a little while, and then it's like kind of transform into this moment now where I'm like really focused on like trying to find like not just my own sound but like something that resonates like kind of beyond just like me, and like if I play it and I see someone's like they like make a face or like they feel something, like that's when I know. And that's when I started to realize like kind of the direction I wanted to go as I was playing more of these like tidbits of music that I was making
Hmm.
during shows, and like seeing the reaction that people had was like more, it had like more value to me than like when I was playing like the biggest drop I could, like the biggest dubstep drop, or like really reaching into my back pocket for like the most underground random dubstep thing. Like I would play those and people would get hyped, but then I would play like this little tidbit of something I was working on, and people would kind of move differently, and like it seemed like they were really involved in the show. So that's kind of where I've leaned into direction now.
That's pretty cool to hear that. And regarding your music making, was there any tracks that you saw when you were starting off that you were like, wow, like this is starting to pop off? Is there any specific tracks that you kind of saw that uptick of, oh, okay, this is getting a lot of streams, gaining recognition, etc.?
I It's honestly like not even my favorite song, and probably the worst mixed song that I have. Like I think technically it's definitely my worst song, but that could be just like a self critique. I don't know. I had made this Ellis Dream remix or edit or whatever you want to call it. It was of the interlude on his Voyager album that he had put out. Because I listened to the whole album and then I heard the interlude and I was like, oh, I can make something cool for like playing shows and stuff. So I just made it, and I I don't even know what happened. I don't remember how it ended up in his possession, but I had posted it on Twitter, and then I went to breakfast or brunch with my girlfriend, and we're sitting there at brunch, and this is probably like 3 hours after I had released the song, the remix, and I get a notification that Ellis Dream had just reposted it. And then after reposting it, like tweeting about it, and after tweeting about it, DMing me, and I was like, dude, what is actually Like, I'm literally trying to get down on some pancakes, and I feel like this life changing moment's happening, and I'm just like, what the heck is going on? And so we finished brunch. I went home, and when I got home, I saw he had like reposted it on his SoundCloud, and it sat there for like the longest time, and I just kind of watched that song do what it's done, and like kind of grown beyond any song that I've made and like held up the longest. And then I noticed like people were liking it. I had not really like people have liked my songs before, but like not like this. Like it felt different. It was like all coming at once. And then I remember just watching like the reposts come in and the downloads happen. And then I remember Ellis Dream asking me like for that song, so I had sent it to him, and I think that was like the first time I'd realized like a lot of like the numbers are more than just like numbers, like they're people, and like if you do something that's like actually like true to yourself, which I would describe as like those random songs that you start making, or like you just get like an idea and you like follow it like without even hesitating, and that right there like taught me a lot, and I think um that moment alone, I was just like, what the heck? Like, this is cool. And even today, like, I think I remember looking like a few months back, and it was on like the most playlists. I didn't even realize you could be on that many playlists at once. Like, it did
Yeah, no, no,
crazy.
it's crazy how songs can just gain traction and gain virality in the span of a week, 2 weeks, and
Yeah,
then you wake up one day and you got a bunch of new notifications on your phone of the song doing very well. And I've definitely seen that from yourself, even with your Matt Berry remix, because then you gain recognition of very big electronic playlists
yeah,
that were
cool.
commenting on your SoundCloud.
That that remix was fun just because like I'd seen Matt Berry on I think it's like a space yacht live stream or something. I just like heard one of his songs on the live stream and I was like, dude, what the heck? And I immediately like followed him on Instagram and on Twitter. And then I think we had like started talking over Twitter, and he had talked about like on his timeline like releasing this song called Payback, and I was like, yo, I'd love to hear it. And so he sent it to me and I was like, can I remix this? And he was like, yeah, I don't care, and like dropped me the stems immediately. And then I just like started cracking on it, like getting to work, and I just made like it's I would say it's more future based than anything, and I had
Mm.
made that and sent it to him, and he was like, "This is dope. Drop it whenever you want, like feel free." And so I dropped that, and after I dropped it, I'd say it's one of the songs that picked up the fastest. Just like on its own organically, like no one reposting it, like that I'm aware of. That's super big. Like
Hmm.
this song just started growing, and obviously it like capped out at a point, but it was also like one of those moments where I was like, dang, like if you do like that thing that you're just really passionate about and like have no hesitation, and you just like kind of go with the universe and let the universe take the wheel for a second, you'll put out a song that actually does something, and it might not do like a million or like 10 million or whatever, but those
Yeah,
little upticks, like those little moments that like kind of remind you, like I said, like the numbers are more than just numbers, like they're people, and like those people actually enjoy your music. um and I think just like having those like little moments to remind myself of that are very important to me, and like really have helped me stay in the game longer than some people might have, or like longer than I thought I would have. Like I'm sure at some point I thought this was just going to be like a phase or something, but it's like those little moments like draw me back in every time.
definitely. Yeah, no, no. It seems like the keyword moments is something that you're very resonant with. I could definitely tell that with your style of music, and you're just always wanting it to be one big moment and people to live in that moment. I would say.
Yeah, it's because I feel like there's a really big focus in music or like whatever it is. Everyone wants to create like this whole world for people to be in. And like yeah, for sure, like create the whole world and do that whole thing. Like there's some people that have like really just aced it with doing that. Um But I've taken like the approach of like kind of scaling down and zooming in, and like thinking about like what were those like literal like moments for me, like what were those
Hmm.
moments where I was like, dang, this was dope. And like I kind of find inspiration in that, and like instead of focusing on like this entire world of like trying to, it also stresses me the heck out, like trying to create like this entire like massive image and world, because I do a lot of my own visual work as well. So if I like sit down and tell myself I'm going to create a whole world, then like I'm just gonna like focus in on like, okay, what does this tree look like, and what do these rocks look like, and like what it like this sound, like the sound needs to emanate, like it needs to remind people of like what the ocean sounds like, and then they go into the desert. Like when I'm thinking of like worlds, like that's what I'm thinking of. So like focusing in on moments, and like in a single moment you can experience so much, and so that alone has kind of been like I would call it like the motif of everything I'm doing right now, is like focusing in on like what happens in the span of a moment, because a moment can be 1 second, it could be an hour, it could be, however long, and like really capturing that. And so yeah, moments, I would like to say like moments are like really like specific to me and important to me, and like capturing the feeling of a moment is very like the my focus right now, I'll say.
Definitely, yeah. And leading into this whole moments conversation that we're having, are there any goals you have for the future for Isaiah Haji? Like, is there any big goals or moments that you're looking forward to in the future, or like goals that you want to achieve?
What I really want to do is carry on with a project that's kind of outside of music. I guess like a little backstory to it is I was doing like some research on just like musicians in general, like the bigger
Hmm.
ones, the ones that have grown, and kind of understanding like what were they doing, like to get their career to where it was. And I noticed like it wasn't really music that got them to where they were. It was like an interest outside of music. And so thinking about that and like trying to be like the most authentic I can be, I was just thinking about like what do I love like the absolute most? Like what is that thing outside of music that I really vibe with? And I landed on like automotive stuff, which kind of leads into like the goal that I want to have is I want to do a tour, but instead of going on like planes or taking, a bus or something like that, I want to build a car and tour in that car. So it'll be like kind of connecting with that thing that when I was a kid, like that thing I used to watch YouTube videos day and night from like TJ Hunt or Dustin Williams or Adam LZ. Like I would say like it was like a year ago I got to meet Adam LZ and be a part of Drift Week here in Tucson, and just seeing like that whole world kind of like snap me back to like kind of my roots almost. And I think almost in tandem with like having those realizations, I started making music I actually enjoyed and liked. So I think it's like that alone, I want to really carry out that plan of mine and like really push for it. And I'm just gonna lean into it as much as possible. And in tandem with that, like building the car, I want the car to be almost like a mascot of this project that I'm working on and like future projects, and like do the same thing with cars and like build more cars and go on more tours. And yeah, just like have a really unique approach to touring and like carry it out and like see just like really how much we can push the envelope, just like not even with just like touring, but like me and myself pushing the envelope with myself and seeing how much I can do. And I'd say yeah, those are like really the goals. And I'd say the moments that I'm looking forward to are just like the moment sharing with like people around the US. Like, when we do, I want to do like car meets and like meet up with people and have like meet and greets at the car meets, and have that moment to listen to people talk about like their car builds and like see what they've been up to. And like we can kind of like mutually share that, and then after the car meet go to the show, and then everybody can like come to the show and we can all vibe out to some music and have a good time. And I think even moving forward, like further forward from that, like the opportunity to look back on all this stuff we do, like in a year or 2 years, and like really see everything that we did like come to fruition. I think that will be really cool. A
That'd be
moment
really
most.
cool, yeah. And I definitely like the topic of when you're talking about cars, because there's definitely a lot of places now that are merging cars with electronic music, just as like a fuel fest, a grid life, and then I've heard you're very interested in a festival, Subi Fest. Am I correct?
Oh, Subi Fest. I really want to go there just because it's gonna be, I'm a big Subaru guy. Like the
Mm-hmm.
number one car that I want is a BRZ. Even though it's like the poor man's Porsche, people call it, but it is just like the smoothest car. Like if you see one that's like built out and like looks good, I can like I'll literally stop in my tracks, neck break, like the whole 9 yards, because that car is so good. So I want to go to Subi Fest, and I want to debut my car at Subi Fest this year. And I'm working with a company called Voltworks. They're kind of partnering with me in building the car and like helping me get the car to a point that's like really able to be, you know, it's going to be a showstopper. That's what I want. I want people to see
Mm-hmm.
the car and be like, "What the heck?" Like I've
That'd be
never.
crazy.
Yeah, I like it's the car we're building for this first one is a WRX. It's a 2005 Blaubai, and I want people to see it and be like, "I've never seen a Blaubai like that, inside and out." Like I want people to be like, "What the heck?" Like this WRX is gnarly. And yeah, we're working with Voltworks. We have a few people that are helping me put the car together as well, inside and out. The car's built motor wise, and we're gonna do more cosmetic things. Um, yeah, it's all gonna come together, and I think I really want to play Grid Life. I think Grid Life would be a dope festival to play. I've seen the past lineups for it, and I'm hoping we can secure ourselves a spot on a Grid Life lineup. I think that'll be dope.
That'll be really cool. Yeah, 'cause I mean, especially if you played like a Grid Life or a Fuel Fest, eventually you would easily turn up a lot of fans to those different places since you do have a pretty big following right now off your social media, and the songs are definitely resonating with many different people. Now, with my next topic that I do want to get into is regarding the music industry as a whole. I think the viewers would definitely want to hear your perspective on this. I was wondering what your whole perspective on the music industry as a whole regarding in the electronic spectrum right now. Like, where do you see this industry as an artist right now?
Uh, the industry right now is crazy, and I feel like a lot of people might not see it or might not realize it. But I think it's kind of like after COVID, and like people are starting to get back to doing what they're doing, and you're seeing like some of the mega big artists doing like these crazy award show performances and things like that. And then out of nowhere, Millennium does the trilogy show, and I feel like maybe like yeah, people saw it as like this cool little situation where Millennium's just presenting like all of his music all at once, and like he's taking over a stadium. But in reality, like he just played like probably one of the biggest self like played electronic shows ever, and I think that really opened the door for a lot of big artists as well to be like, oh wait, like we were doing that before and we can keep doing it and grow it bigger and bigger and bigger. um and now you have people like Subtronics who are playing these mega shows, and Excision, who's always been playing these really large shows, but now like really pushing the scale and doing it in multiple states. And I think that those things have enabled people to kind of shift in where they are in the industry, whether it's on the management side or on the artist side or the booking
Mm-hmm.
side or whatever side you want to be on. Um, it's really like opened up a gap where people can like fill in and like find their spot. And I think a lot of artists kind of shifted up. And then from there, like some other smaller artists shifted up, and now like it's given the opportunity for people like me to shift up and like start to find my spot in the industry. And it feels like even though it's saturated, at the lower
Mm-hmm.
levels, it also feels like it just like gave everybody room to breathe like after Millennium did that. And Subtronics playing like one of the biggest shows in Arizona to ever happen. Like I feel like that gave us in Arizona ourselves like more room to breathe as artists, and like maybe maybe some of the artists in Arizona like too soon will like kind of bump up a little bit, and then someone can fill in that gap, and then it's gonna keep doing that thing. So I think there's a lot of opportunity happening right now. A lot of space has been created.
Hmm.
um, I think there's also been like a really good influx of like new talent on the management side, and just some of the people I've met, and like their perspective on how they want to run their careers is really aligned with like supporting artists and like actually helping them, not just coming into the industry to be the coolest guy in the room and like saying somebody, or you work with somebody. Like there's people that are actually interested. um, and I think that's really cool to see. And like a lot of the young minds that I've been able to connect with, and have the opportunity to like just sit down and talk, like not even like really do business, but just like share ideas. Like I think there's a lot of think tank happening right now. Like a lot of people are
Hmm.
just down to just talk on the phone for hours and share ideas. And
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think that's really cool. And there's people like like this, like you starting this podcast. Like this
Hmm.
is just another opportunity for you to like meet people and share like your experience and learn more about them. But also it gives smaller artists like me like a gap to fill. And I would say in normal situations, people wouldn't want to just like meet the small, like the person who's playing, early on the lineup. So it's cool that you're
Yeah.
doing this.
For sure. No, appreciate it because I mean I definitely want people to shine light on yourself and people to get to know yourself because as a first guest, like I want people to know like the specific ideas that you have and the music that you're creating and the shows you want to play and all of that because I think it's very inspiring for these other up and coming artists to look towards. And
Yeah,
r-
yeah.
yeah, and regarding this, do you have any ideas or any tips for any upcoming producers in this industry in the electronic scene? Anyone who wants to make it in this space, do you have any advice?
I think the biggest advice I can give is like understanding when you need time to like just kick back. I'm sure I can probably list off 25 people that would tell you to just like grind, 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 make music nonstop, like bang your head up against the wall if that's what it takes. But I've learned that like giving myself that moment to just breathe and like think about what I'm doing and thinking about what I want to, like what directions I want to go. I feel like the artist role is like, yeah, there's a time and place where you do need to just like sit down and like bang your head up against the wall until you get the idea and like nail the project that you're trying to finish. But I also think you should be able to take a step back without feeling like guilty about it. I think another thing that's really important is just like meeting people face to
Hmm.
face, and like if a really random opportunity comes to just like go to a festival, like do it. Who cares? Like yeah, you might be on like your absolute last limb and probably not the most, smart financial decision for you,
Yeah.
but like those random opportunities, you have no idea where they could lead or like who you could meet.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think just like taking those risks. I mean, obviously, this advice is probably the worst thing any parent would want their kid to hear. But I think it's just like you just got to like do things like at your pace and like really look within yourself and understand like what is the most authentic thing that resonates with you, but also could resonate with other people. And in tandem with that, like find that thing outside of music that you love. Whether it's like if you're super into video games, like when you're not making music, you should be playing video games. And if you're not at work, you should be playing video games. Who cares? Like, I'm sure everybody would be like, dude, don't waste your time playing video games. But find a way to like flip that into your music and like bridge the gap so it's not just like a distraction. And I think an example would be like incorporating video games into like your music, in some capacity, or like in your visuals. Like if there's a game you really like take inspiration from that and like learn how to make visuals and like try to emulate what the visuals in that game look like. If you're into cars, like you can be like me and just build a car and then throw a wrap on the car that looks like your logo or something. Like I don't know, like just find that thing outside of music and then a way to bridge it so that like your audience isn't just like it's not just like this transactional relationship with your audience where you put out music and they listen to it, because you are essentially asking for their time, and that is a transaction on its own. So like having that thing that you guys can mutually enjoy, like kind of build the conversation with, I think is really important as well. Even if it's like super nerdy, like if you're into coding, like look at Death Pact. Like I'm sure there's a side of Death Pact that is just like absolute nerd, like is into like sci-fi stuff, is like, and into coding or some capacity, like I don't know, but like like they found a way to bridge that gap and like make it into something that's more than just like here's my music and then here's this thing I love. Like they combined it completely, and yeah, that alone is like a really good example. Um, or even like Blank, like one of Blank's biggest qualities has been his plants and like his attention to nature and like how much he enjoys it, and that has seamlessly been bonded into his music. And whether people really realize it or not, like that in itself is like he's taken an interest of his and his music and combined them visually, and I would say even sonically. Like I feel like if you played Blank's music around some plants, they would grow healthier. So like I think you know what I mean, like you just finding those things and blending them and like really just being yourself with your music in like this new way, because the entire industry and like the way everything is going is like changed from how it was before, where you could just like you know throw a random song out and it just blows up. And like even recently, like you could do the same thing on TikTok and then you know, over not overnight, but what seems like overnight, kind of blow up on your own. I think now like we've kind of crossed the hump and crossed the bridge of like just being able to do that, and now you kind of have to be yourself and like be authentic and be as real as possible while still staying like I would say like detached from everything,
Hmm.
because like as much as you're being yourself and you're being real and like authentic and showcasing like your vision, there's going to be people out there that say it's trash or hate it. So like still having like the thick skin and like the ability to detach a little bit from that. And yeah, I mean just having fun ultimately, and like keeping your business mind, learning a little bit about marketing, learning a little bit about content creation, learning a little bit about booking, publishing, mixing and mastering. I would say just learning everything you can, applying it to your music, bridging your interests into your music, and just creating this like really awesome idea.
Yeah, no, for sure. And even like when you're talking about people reading about the music industry, like the one funny thing is that I got this on my desk. I think you read this, and I think many people should read this. All you need to know about the music industry.
Yup,
Read this
that's
book,
it.
everybody. This is what you need to know.
I was actually so there's an artist named Cadmium, and he's in Florida. He is honestly like the most random character in my life story, because I met him and he was making like kind of pop music, so it didn't really like capture my full interest. Like the music was good, like I'm not going to say it
Hmm.
was bad, but it just like didn't fully capture my interest. And then he said like you should come over and hang out, and so I went over there and hung out, and he showed me some like really wildly good music that he's currently releasing. So this was like a year, maybe 2 years ago now.
Hmm.
um yeah, like 2 years ago, I heard like the music that he's putting out now, and I was blown away, because it literally is like the rebirth of some super dope future based music. And like it, that was a super side story, but I was hanging out with him one night, and I was talking about music industry and stuff like that,
Hmm.
and kind of keying him into like some of the ideas I shared today. And he ended up giving me that book, and he was like, "Have you read this?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "That's weird, because you seem to know a lot like from this book." And I was like, "Oh, well, I'll read it." So he'd given me a copy, and I read through it, and I was like, "Wow, it's kind of validating." Like a lot of the information that I've gathered over the years that's kind of stuck with me is also in this textbook that I mean, people use it in college as a textbook
Hmm.
that
Yeah,
like that I'm also just like keyed into. So yeah, I do like that book. That book is really good, and I recommend it to everybody.
definitely. You heard it first from Isiah Haji. Please go buy that book. But my very last question, I think you'll have a lot of information to explain on this, is there anything upcoming for Isiah Haji regarding music, projects, or anything else that you would like to tell our viewers?
So I have one song coming out. It is called Resurrect. It's coming out on the 23rd, I believe, of this month. I made that song probably around 2 years ago to a year ago, for the Subtronic show. Actually, I'd played it there along with my other song Origins, but Resurrect I'd sat on because when making it, I thought it was just like the dopest song ever, and then I built this like sentimental attachment to it that I could not break, and I kept putting myself into like analysis paralysis. But yeah, that song is finally coming out this month. I am starting to roll out more of this secret project of mine, and you'll see it more so unfold. It's a visual audio experience for sure. On top of that, the car coming together, everything will kind of meet like at its point pretty soon. It feels like, um, but yeah, I think really that's the only main one I can share is Resurrect coming out. So look out for that. It's gonna be pretty good.
Everyone, look out for Resurrect coming out this month. Isiah Haji, is there anything else you would like to say to our viewers before we end this chat? Do you have your socials that you want to provide to our viewers so they can
Yeah, I
keep
mean,
up to date?
yeah, all the socials are just at Isiah Haji. I wasn't really creative when coming up with a DJ name or like any social media handles. I think my TikTok is Isiah Haji Music, but other than that, yeah, it's all pretty simple. My website, you can go there, check out merch, check out music. We'll be adding tour dates on there soon. I'm actually announcing a show tomorrow, I believe, or like the whenever at some point when this comes out, it'll be announced already. But I'm opening for Nurko here in Tucson, so that's gonna be dope. My second time opening for him. Grab tickets if you're in Tucson or Phoenix or Sierra Vista, wherever you are. Pull up, have a good time. Yeah, that's really it. Honestly, I mean, if for all the artists out there, just keep pushing and doing your thing. Um, yeah, check out Asylum Records. If you
Check out
don't know what
Asylum Records, yes,
if you
and
don't know what
that,
that is, check it out.
yeah,
We'll call it a big moment. You know what I mean?
big moments. But yes, now viewers, you'll definitely hear a lot more about Asylum Records on next episode, which will be coming out next Friday, with an artist named Mental who owns Asylum Records. So please stay tuned to that. And again, I thank you, Isiah Haji, for being a part of this first podcast. You did very well, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your weekend.
Dude, thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Definitely, for sure. We'll talk to you later. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.